The galaxy did not plan to watch a human child die that morning, but the Empire rarely asked for permission. Without warning, every broadcast feed, from the shimmering hollow panels of the Korth Hive to the cheap street screens of the Yarrow Confederates, flickered, glitched, and snapped into the same chilling image. A vast execution chamber swallowed in cold cerulean light. A slender human girl, no older than 16, bound upright to a humming plasma frame. Her boots barely touched the metal floor. Her hands were trapped behind her in polished cuffs that seemed almost ceremonial, like the Empire wanted her humiliation to gleam. Billions of aliens paused. Some leaned forward. Some smirked. Some whispered bets. And some, particularly the old ones familiar with Earth's history, felt a tightness in their chests they could not explain. At first glance, the girl didn't look dangerous. Her dark hair fell messily over one eye, her breathing was slow but steady, and her face showed none of the panic the Empire hoped to display. She simply studied the room around her, as if memorizing each panel and wire. When the Empire's announcer declared her execution, she didn't scream, cry, or beg. Instead, she cleared her throat softly and said, could you tighten the left cuff? It's a little loose." The chamber monitors blinked. A Bascori warmaster watching the broadcast snorted bitterly. Typical humans. Always joking before death. A Yarrow broker hissed. No. They break easily. I read they faint during dental examinations." A Korth worker, younger and naive, asked, "Why is she smiling?" The Empire's announcer, unsettled, ignored her request and continued with the official proclamation. Words like treason and insurgency echoed, but none of that mattered. What mattered was the face of the girl, unshaken, almost bored. It was the kind of composure that made predators uneasy. Far from the broadcast chamber, somewhere on the Empire-controlled moon of Lathrix, a single human ship hovered unnoticed behind a dead satellite. Inside stood Commander Jessa Cross, 30-ish, poised, and wearing an expression that suggested she'd woken up to far worse problems on far worse Mondays. She held a coffee cup in one hand, a tablet in the other, and she watched the broadcast with the dry patience of a parent waiting for a toddler to finish their tantrum. Behind her stood a small alien technician the humans had employed for the mission, trembling so violently his scales rattled. "Commander Cross," he croaked. They have a child." Jessa took a slow sip. "Yes. They do. You will attempt a peaceful negotiation first? As humans say." "Peaceful," she echoed gently. "Yes. My favorite word." She set down her cup and tapped the corner of the screen, zooming in on the girl's face. Despite the restraints, the girl looked like someone standing in line at a bakery, waiting politely for her turn. Every few seconds she shifted her foot ever so slightly, tapping her heel in a subtle rhythm. Jessa felt the shift inside her, the recognition. "She's signaling," she whispered. "Let me hear it clearer." The technician amplified the audio. The taps fell into a pattern, sharp, deliberate, unmistakable to someone trained for it. Not Morse. Not anything the Empire could decode. But Jessa knew it. Every human peacekeeper of Echelon Black knew it. The girl wasn't afraid. She was reporting. Outside the station window, the emptiness of space stretched endlessly, swallowing the faint glimmer of stars. Jessa exhaled slowly, the breath of someone placing the final puzzle piece. "They think she's helpless." The alien technician's eyes widened. "Is she not? When has a human child ever been helpless?" Jessa asked softly. Down in the broadcast palace, Empire officials strutted around the execution platform with theatrical confidence. They had taken great pains to present themselves as righteous judges. Their armor gleamed beneath the lights. Their weapons hummed like angry bees. Their stance told the crowd, "Watch how little it takes to break a human." But the girl kept smiling, a small, crooked smile that felt completely wrong for the situation. She tilted her head, regarded the lead officer, and gently asked, "Are you sure this is your best lighting? Feels a bit unflattering." The officer choked on air. Viewers across the galaxy gasped. A few laughed nervously. The old ones did not laugh. In their bones, ancient warnings whispered, Humans never show their teeth before they strike. The broadcast timer pulsed red as the announcer declared the final sequence to prepare the plasma frame. The hum intensified, reverberating through every viewer's chest like a war drum. But the girl only lifted her chin, almost proud. Then she blinked. Once, twice, 3 times. Another code. Another message. Jessa straightened. She's ready. The technician nearly fainted. Are ready for what? For us to stop being polite. The commander secured her vest, tightened her gloves, and reached for her sidearm. Not drawn, merely checked. She wasn't here to shoot her way in. She was here to do something far worse. She looked at her technician with a gentle smile that terrified him. Please prepare transmission access. And if I say duck, please do so quickly. Back in the chamber, the plasma frame brightened. The announcer raised his voice theatrically. For the crimes committed against the Galactic Empire, humanity will learn its place today. The girl raised an eyebrow. Oh honey, you have no idea. The officer snapped at her. Silence. She shrugged lightly. Just saying. 37 minutes is a very optimistic window. The officer paused. What window? Before he could repeat the question, every screen in the galaxy glitched again. The broadcast split, sharing space with a newly hijacked signal. A serene human face appeared. Commander Jessa Cross, tidy, polite, smiling like a kindergarten teacher about to explain Scissor's safety. Hello, she said sweetly. I'm Commander Jessa Cross of the United Human Colonies. A pleasure. Truly. The officer sneered. You have no authority here. Oh, I know, she said, her voice warm as spring sunlight. But you've taken something that belongs to us. And humans, as you may have heard, react poorly to that. Across the galaxy, laughter erupted, mocking, dismissive. The Empire's commentators jeered. Militants roared. Even the neutral species snickered at the audacity of a lone human commander, threatening the greatest empire in 3 spiral arms. Jessa waited patiently for the noise to fade, still smiling. Let me be clear, she said softly. You have 37 minutes to release the girl unharmed. And if we don't? The officer mocked. Jessa's smile widened, bright and syrup-sweet. Then your empire will experience a series of historical events. A hush fell across the galaxy. The girl lifted her eyes to the camera, and without moving her lips, let her expression shift into something ancient and unspoken. Something that made a Bascori warlord drop his drink. The timer on the broadcast display began counting down automatically. 37:00, 36:59, 36:58. And the entire galaxy leaned in, breathless, as the impossible realization bloomed. The humans were not warning. They were promising. The countdown began as nothing more than a curiosity. 37 minutes felt like a lifetime to an empire that had ruled for 1,000 years. At 37:00, the alien commentators mocked the humans with theatrical confidence. At 36:30, they analyzed Jessa Cross's empty threat with condescending professionalism. At 36:00, entire networks laughed at how humans relied on drama when afraid. But at 35:50, when the human girl shifted her weight and tapped her heel again, just twice, those who knew anything about Earth felt a tremor they couldn't name. High Chancellor Virex of the Empire, watching from a luxurious viewing deck, scoffed. Humans bluff. Always have. Always will. Their fear makes their voices louder. He waved a dismissive hand at his advisors. Continue the execution sequence. Their theatrics insult our intelligence. But those same advisors exchanged glances. Something in the girl's posture, something in the calmness of her face, felt wrong. It was the wrong expression for prey. At 33:00, on the hidden human ship behind the dead satellite, Jessa Cross began prepping in the calmest way imaginable. She didn't pace. She didn't bark orders. She didn't sweat. Instead, she placed her empty coffee cup on a magnetic shelf, wiped her hands delicately on a cloth, and took a moment to steady her breath. Her technician, still quivering, watched her with terror and awe. "Commander," he whispered. "The Empire is mobilizing ground shields." "Good," she said lightly. "Makes the fall more dramatic." "You speak as if it has already happened." She turned to him with a look of gentle pity. "It has. They just don't realize it yet." The technician swallowed. "Is this personal for you?" Jessa paused. Her eyes softened, almost imperceptibly. "Any time someone threatens a child of my species, it becomes personal." Then she tapped her wrist panel twice, connecting her to the human girl's biometric feed. The numbers displayed were steady. Heart rate normal, breathing even, neural activity sharp. The girl was not afraid. She was calculating. At 31:20, across the galaxy, alien newscasters analyzed that heart rate with disbelief. "It appears stable," one said. "Is she sedated? Is she in shock?" Perhaps humans don't understand the situation they're in. The oldest alien among them simply murmured, "No. They understand perfectly." At 29:00, the Empire's internal systems flickered. Lights dimmed for less than a second. No one noticed, except a single engineer who frowned at his tablet and muttered, "That's odd." He tried to run diagnostics but found the interface sluggish. He blamed bad wiring. He blamed bad luck. He did not blame humans. That was his first mistake. At 27:00, Commander Jessa Cross reviewed her tablet again. A faint smile touched her lips. "Tom is inside," she whispered. The technician blinked. "Who is Tom?" "An AI," Jessa said. "Harmless. Mostly." She closed the tablet. "He prefers using the vents to enter a system. The Empire's broadcast network made it easy." "You hacked their broadcast?" the technician asked, horrified. She laughed softly. "Oh no, sweetheart. We didn't hack anything." She pointed toward the live display. "They broadcasted themselves. We just included a few extra layers in the signal." At 25:40, the Empire's Admiralty began congratulating themselves. "The humans can do nothing. They have sent one woman. Their species will know its place after today." Their arrogance was loud enough to be heard across several military wings. Yet above their celebration, unnoticed by all, a whispering digital ripple crawled through their circuitry, like a polite guest knocking before entering. At 2400 hours, Tom AI politely said hello to a turret. At 23:59, the turret fired at its own feet because Tom told it, "Careful. You almost stepped on a bug." At 23:40, the turret deactivated forever. Back in the execution chamber, the girl adjusted her stance again. Her restraints were still firm, still humming with plasma containment, but her expression had shifted subtly. Not fear. Anticipation. The lead guard noticed and growled. "What are you smiling at?" She shrugged. "Just enjoying the countdown." 2200 hours. 2100 hours. 2040. A power fluctuation rattled through the chamber lights. They dimmed, brightened, then dimmed again. The announcer swallowed hard. "Minor technical issue," he said stiffly. "Continue with the preparation." 2010. Jessa Cross stepped into her ship's drop bay. It wasn't designed for dramatic entrances, but she would make it one anyway. "Begin descent sequence," she ordered. The technician flinched. "Commander, alone?" "Alone is tidier." 1950. Every alien watching felt a sudden shift in the girl's breathing, the slightest rise in her chest, as if preparing for a sprint. Why would someone tied to a frame prepare to run? 1920. Tom AI found the Empire's central data spine. He politely introduced himself to the firewall. "Hello. Could you open, please?" The firewall declined. Tom insisted with adorable persistence, until the firewall gave up and let him in. The moment he settled inside, 1,000 screens in the Empire's control center flickered with a cartoon face giving a thumbs up. 1900 hours. The Emperor demanded, "What is that thing?" A technician whimpered, I think it's smiling at us, sir." 1840. In the chamber, the hum of the plasma frame intensified. The girl tilted her head to one side, studying the energy shimmer as though watching rain. She whispered, "Almost time." The guard hissed, "Time for what?" 1800 hours. Commander Cross's pod launched from her ship with a blast of blue fire, streaking toward the broadcast palace. The technician, watching the launch, dropped to his knees and prayed to three gods he didn't believe in. 1700 hours. The Empire's military academies taught generations of soldiers that humans were emotionally volatile. They flinched. They cried. They froze. Judging from the girl's current posture, this doctrine was about to be rewritten. 1630. The lights in the execution chamber flickered violently. Consoles rebooted. The plasma frame sputtered. The announcer began sweating through his armor. "What is happening?" he barked. 1610. An engineer, panicking, called out, "The power grid's being rerouted. Something's inside our network." 1600 hours. The countdown reached the halfway mark. The girl breathed steadily. The galaxy held its breath. 1540. Jessa's pod slammed into the broadcast tower's landing bay with a controlled fury. The doors hissed open. She stepped out smoothly, brushing imaginary dust from her shoulder. 1520. Tom AI hummed a cheerful tune while disabling the palace's turret system. 1500 hours. The broadcast feed across the galaxy glitched, flickered between panicking officers and the girl's unwavering eyes. 1440. The girl whispered, "Phase 1 complete." 1420. A guard lunged to silence her, but the plasma frame suddenly powered down, dropping him mid-step. 1400 hours. The galaxy gasped as the lights died completely. 1350. A single spotlight clicked on, illuminating the girl's calm, fearless expression. 1340. Jessa Cross entered the execution chamber's upper corridor, her boots echoing like distant thunder. 1320. The girl lifted her head toward the direction of the sound. A soft smile spread across her lips. She tapped her heel once. Jessa answered with one soft tap of her own. 1250. A wave of realization crashed across the galaxy. The girl wasn't being rescued. She was coordinating. 1230. An elder alien collapsed in his seat. Oh no. They trained her. 12 o'clock. The plasma restraints clicked open, not broken, released. 1140. The guard screamed. Who opened them? 1120. The girl stepped down gracefully. Someone polite. 11 o'clock. Jessa descended the final steps into the chamber corridor. 1040. The girl's face transformed from passive calm to deadly purpose. 1020. The guard stumbled backward. 1010. The announcer whispered, "Stop the countdown, stop it." 10 o'clock. It kept ticking anyway. 950. Jessa placed her hand on the chamber door. 940. The Empire realized they hadn't been dealing with a hostage. They had been dealing with bait. 920. Tom AI popped up on every screen with a cheerful, "Hi. Did you miss me?" 910. The guards screamed. 9 o'clock. The girl quietly said, "Mom." The doors began to open. 850. Jessa stepped through. 840. The galaxy understood one horrifying truth. Humans never threaten. They foreshadow. The moment Jessa Cross stepped into the execution chamber, the Empire's composure fractured like thin glass under heat. The guards, who seconds earlier strutted with imperial arrogance, froze as if encountering a creature from myth. Their weapons remained holstered, less from discipline, more from the sudden realization that drawing them might provoke something they were not ready to face. Jessa took a slow breath and surveyed the room with a disarming calm. Her eyes found the girl first. The girls were already on her, bright and steady, carrying trust so fierce and quiet it pierced through the smoke-thick tension. "You took your time," the girl said softly. Jessa smiled. "Traffic." That gentle humor landed like a blade. One guard flinched backward. Another's fingers twitched near his holster. Jessa didn't spare them a glance. "Are you hurt?" "No," the girl replied. "Just mildly annoyed." "Good." Annoyance is a useful emotion. The guard captain found his voice at last. You will surrender. Immediately. You are outnumbered, outgunned, and you have no authority in the Empire's hall. Jessa tilted her head, studying him with the patient affection of someone examining a slow student. Outnumbered. She repeated softly. Possibly. Outgunned? Doubtful. Authority. She took a single step forward. Let me show you how humans define that word. Before the captain could respond, every light in the chamber exploded into a strobing crackle. The screens that normally displayed execution data now flickered with the round, cheerful face of Tom AI. His cartoon thumb lifted in a jaunty gesture. Hi. Apologies for the interruption. Your network is now undergoing routine rearrangement. The guards panicked. Tom's voice, bright as a children's show host, somehow made everything more terrifying. Screens inverted. Alarms shrieked and cut out abruptly. Turrets spun in circles, unable to decide what to target. A dozen self-defense drones fired warning shots into the air, as if staging a celebratory parade. The guard captain yelled, "Shut it down!" Tom chirped, "I can't let you do that, champ." The girl laughed quietly, the sound sharp with relief and vengeance. "He likes you," she said to the captain. Jessa approached her, checking the girl's wrists for burns. "Tom doesn't like anyone," she murmured. "This is him being courteous." The Empire's officers attempted to regain control. Panels sparked under their frantic hands. Systems refused commands. Doors locked of their own accord. Power rerouted so quickly that half the palace lights strobed like a heartbeat. Each pulse felt like the building inhaling panic. Somewhere deep in the palace, a terrified engineer shouted into the comms. "The AI's in the subroutines. It's rewriting the security grid." Another voice frantically added, "It's rewriting the map of the building. Why does the elevator now lead to the kitchen?" Jessa didn't spare any of it attention. Her eyes stayed on the girl. "Ready?" "Born ready," the girl replied. They moved as one. The girl followed Jessa toward the corridor, while Tom gently locked the guards inside the chamber, leaving them to scream at locked doors and malfunctioning panels. As they walked, the palace around them shuddered like a creature being peeled apart layer by layer. It wasn't destruction. It was rearrangement, polite but merciless. The deeper they went, the worse the chaos grew. Hall lights blinked frantically. Walls trembled as emergency systems tried to assert dominance and failed. Guards fired at shadows, at doors, at each other when Tom rerouted their targeting systems. The audio feed of the Imperial chain of command dissolved into a mess of contradictory orders, clipped screams, and one hysterical officer shouting, "Why is the fire alarm playing an ancient human song? What is take on me?" Jessa paused beside a window overlooking the capital city. From here, she could see the Empire's towering spires, normally pristine monuments of power, beginning to shake as Tom activated dormant seismic regulators. Entire buildings groaned under the stress. Shields flickered. Sky platforms dipped violently. A soft gasp escaped the girl. "It's starting." "Not yet," Jessa said, voice gentle. "This is only the warm-up." Far below, civilians poured into the streets, looking up as the once untouchable structures of their empire flickered, dimmed, or tilted. The sky buzzed with activity. Patrol drones collided midair. Transport ships drifted off course. A massive holographic billboard displayed Tom smiling and waving like a cheerful mascot welcoming guests to chaos. The palace trembled again. A chandelier crashed in the distance, followed by panic shouting. Through it all, Jessa walked calmly, her posture relaxed. The girl matched her pace, breathing steady. Together, they felt like still water in the midst of a hurricane. As they descended a stairwell, they passed a squad of trembling soldiers. They aimed their weapons but couldn't fire. Their plasma magazines had been replaced with confetti by Tom. Literal confetti. One soldier pulled the trigger and a burst of glitter shot forward, followed by Tom's delighted "Sparkles!" Jessa nodded politely to them as she passed. Lovely uniforms. None dared move. They reached the palace's primary lift, now stuck open with a terrified emperor inside, pounding weakly on the doors. His golden robes were disheveled, his crown crooked. "Let me out!" he cried. "You can't keep me here." Tom's voice echoed sweetly from the intercom. "Oh, but I can. Safety first." The Emperor looked at Jessa with wild, pleading eyes. "Human, please, we can negotiate." Jessa stepped past him without a glance. "Negotiations ended when you put a child on a cage." The Emperor's sobs echoed behind the closing doors. They entered the next corridor, lined with enormous windows overlooking the city's central district. The ground rumbled with increasing violence. Tom's manipulation wasn't random. He was guiding the collapse with precision, engineering a downfall so carefully orchestrated it bordered on artistry. The girl whispered, "Mom, look." Jessa followed her gaze. Across the city, the Empire's grand military tower, the symbol printed on every flag, leaned unnaturally, as if bowing under unseen weight. Windows burst outward in glittering streams. Lights flared and died. A slow, terrible groan rolled through the streets. The girl's eyes shimmered with awe and fury. "They hurt children," she said. "They hurt my classmates. They hurt our colony." "They did," Jessa agreed softly. "And today, we take everything they used to hurt others." Screams echoed through the city as the tower's base cracked. Even from this distance, the tremor struck like a physical blow. People fled in every direction, some falling to their knees in fear, some staring upward in disbelief. For centuries, the Empire had towered over them. Now it couldn't even stand straight. Tom's cartoon face flickered across every screen. Structural integrity failing. "Watch your step." The tower tilted farther. Glass rained. The foundations groaned louder, splitting, surrendering. A massive fracture split the center. The universe held its breath. The girl whispered, "Mom, it's going to fall." Jessa nodded. "Yes. And when it does." The girl met her eyes. "The Empire falls with it." The final support snapped. A roar like the collapse of a world echoed across the capital. The Grand Tower began its slow, monstrous descent. And Jessa looked at her daughter with a quiet, deadly smile that promised everything still to come. "Sweetheart," she murmured, "this is only phase 2. The fall of the Imperial Tower did not end with a crash. It ended with a silence so profound it felt like the galaxy forgot how to breathe. Dust rose in a towering column, swallowing the skyline. The shockwave rippled through the capital, shattering windows, buckling streets, and leaving a trembling stillness in its wake. Citizens stared, frozen between awe and terror, as the symbol of their empire crumbled like wet sand. And above the ruins, flickering on every surviving screen, Tom AI cheerfully announced, "Demolition complete. Thank you for your patience." Jessa Cross stood with her daughter at the shattered window, watching the collapse settle. Her expression remained calm, almost serene, as if she'd merely finished rearranging furniture. The girl, however, trembled. Not with fear, but with a strange, rising clarity. "Mom," she whispered, "they'll never undo this. They'll never forget. They're not supposed to." Jessa placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "Some lessons have to leave scars." Outside, the city convulsed with panic. Soldiers threw down their weapons. Citizens poured into the streets. Priests of half a dozen alien faiths shouted prayers to the heavens. The Empire's commanders barked broken orders into comms that no longer obeyed. Every remaining screen flickered with static, then the bright-eyed image of Tom blinking as if pleased with himself. Jessa guided her daughter away from the window, her steps unhurried. "We're nearly done. Let's finish this cleanly." They entered a chamber vast enough to house 3 star cruisers, once the throne room, though now it was little more than a cavern of broken marble and flickering blue light. The Emperor knelt in the center, surrounded by the trembling remains of his court. His crown lay shattered beside him. His robes hung scorched and uneven. But his eyes, those burned with the frantic feral instinct of a cornered animal. He saw the girl first and recoiled. "You," he hissed. "You were supposed to die." The girl stepped forward with quiet steadiness. "You shouldn't hurt kids," she said. Her voice wasn't angry, it was impossibly calm. You shouldn't hurt anyone who can't fight back. The Emperor spat bitter laughter. Human morality. Sentiment. Weakness. Jessa approached, hands clasped neatly behind her back. Strange, she said gently. How weakness seems to cause your entire government to fall apart in under an hour. He lunged forward. Or tried to. Tom activated a restraint field with a cheerful beep, pinning him to the floor. Stay still, please. The AI chimed. You're a tripping hazard. The Emperor thrashed helplessly. Your species is chaos incarnate. No, Jessa replied calmly. My species is patient. She crouched slightly, meeting his furious gaze. You tried to execute a child. You wanted the galaxy to watch her die. You thought that would frighten us. Her eyes softened, dangerous and warm at once. But you never understood us. The girl stepped beside her mother. We warned you, she whispered. Jessa nodded. We warned you nicely. A tremor shook the palace floor. Not violent, more like the settling of something massive. Across the city, lights flared as human ships descended. Not weapons first, but with medical vessels, relief cruisers, and diplomatic carriers. They weren't invading. They were helping. Alien citizens stared upward in disbelief as humans treated the Empire's collapse with the same gentle efficiency as cleaning a burned kitchen. Focused, swift, and faintly disappointed in whoever started the fire. Medics poured into streets. Drone pods distributed food and blankets. Human officers directed civilians away from unstable structures with calm, steady hand signals. It was this maddening politeness in the face of destruction, that terrified the Empire most. Jessa tapped her wrist panel. A holographic map flickered to life, showing the capital, surrounding cities, and the Empire's entire planetary network, all marked with green now. We have control of your infrastructure, she said. Your military. Your communications. Your energy grid. No one is coming to rescue you because everyone is too busy surrendering. The Emperor's voice cracked. Is this conquest? Conquest? Jessa repeated, genuinely confused. No. If we wanted that, you'd be Stardust. The girl added quietly. This is protection. Their words echoed in the vast room like a verdict. The Emperor's trembling advisors dared to ask. What happens to us now? Jessa stood fully. You're going to learn democracy, she said. You'll complain endlessly, fight about trivial things, elect terrible leaders occasionally, but you'll be free. A faint smile touched her lips. It's chaotic, loud, frustrating, but once you taste it you'll never return to chains. Silence spread across the throne room. Then a trembling young alien, barely an adult, whispered. You aren't taking our worlds? No, the girl looked directly at him. We're giving them back. The Emperor's face twisted in disbelief. You're letting us live? Jessa raised a brow. Do you think we came here to murder civilians? We're humans, not monsters. The irony made several guards sob. Tom's face appeared once more on the central display. FYI, your treasury has been redistributed to fund public infrastructure. You're welcome. Jessa sighed fondly. He's overeager. But the message stands. Aliens in the room exchanged stunned looks. The Empire had tormented species across 3 sectors. It had enslaved. It had crushed rebellions. It had forced cultural erasure. And in retaliation, humans toppled their government, disabled their armies, rewired their planet, and then offered them schools, hospitals, and self-governance. It defied understanding. The girl surveyed the room, her chin lifted, her breathing steady. Where fear had once threatened to root itself, something else now bloomed. Resolve. She had been strapped to a frame, marked for execution, displayed for millions. Yet here she stood, upright and unbroken, the axis around which the fate of an empire now turned. One trembling advisor dared to speak again. Why didn't you destroy us? Jessa exchanged a glance with her daughter. Because, she said softly, this wasn't about revenge. She lifted her wrist, displaying a stream of data, coordinates, warning signals, threat markers far beyond this system. This was a test. The Emperor froze. A test? Our final exam, the girl whispered. Jessa nodded. Humanity needed to be sure Tom's systems worked on a large scale. We needed to know if we could disable a hostile empire using information, without firing a single lethal shot. She stepped closer, her voice lowering. Because something is coming. Something your empire provoked long before today. And we intend to meet it prepared. The Emperor's breath hitched. What did we provoke? Jessa smiled. Not us. Her daughter smiled too. Something worse. The throne room lights dimmed as the human fleet shifted position above the capital. Shadows rippled across the cracked marble floor. Outside, civilians gasped as the sky filled with human ships, more than they'd ever seen. Not warships. Not weapon platforms. Research vessels. Tactical command carriers. Exploration frigates. A fleet built not for crushing empires, but for confronting nightmares. Jessa placed a steady hand on the girl's shoulder. Ready? The girl nodded, her expression fierce, bright, unshaking. Who's next? Jessa's smile sharpened with quiet, terrifying certainty. The ones who thought this empire could shield them. And somewhere in the distant dark, far beyond the ruins of the old regime, something stirred.